Hello, everyone. Welcome to our College Sports Communicators webinar, where we will explore why mentorship matters. Mentorship is something that really thrives on trust, shared curiosity, and a commitment to growing together. Today, we're going to explore how mentorship can spark personal and professional development and why it's important across all stages of your career. My name is Josh Jonas. I'm Assistant Commissioner of Strategic Communications at Conference USA. And this webinar is presented as a collaboration between the Career Services Committee and the Mentorship Committee, and I'm excited to serve as today's moderator. I'm joined by an incredible group of professionals who are ready to share their career journeys and advice with you all. We've got a lot to cover, so I'll turn it over to each panelist to introduce themselves and briefly share a 30-second or so answer on why mentorship matters to them. Bryce, I'll start with you.
Thanks so much, Josh. Thanks so much for the introduction. I don't know if incredible is the word I would use for myself, but my name is Bryce Johnson. I'm the Director of Athletic Communications at Guilford College Division III School in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, where I'm coming up on about 2 years here in my role. Before that, I had stops at Roger Williams University and Black Hills State University at the Division III and Division II levels. I currently also serve on the CSC Mentorship Committee and coming up on 2 years, or I'm in my second year with that committee. Why mentorship matters is so important to me because there's not an athletic communications professional in the nation that is perfect. We all have room to grow. We all have room to improve and to learn, often from each other. Whether it's getting feedback on a graphic template or fielding advice on how to handle a situation with a colleague, someone you supervise, or your supervisor yourself. There's so much value in having someone who you can consult that understands the field, and that's why mentorship is so important.
Thanks, Bryce. Kristen, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Keller, Associate Athletic Director for Sports Brands and Communications at the University of Southern California. Made some stops along the way at UC Santa Barbara, Loyola Chicago, and a couple D3 NAIA schools as well. I'm also chair of the Young Professionals Committee and a member of the Mentorship Committee. But to me, mentorship matters because of the relationships you get to build. Not only are you learning and growing from other people, but you're giving to others as well. And to me, the connections that you build along the way are the things that matter the most. And we'll touch on that as we get on through today.
Thanks, Kristen. Joe, you're next.
Perfect. My name is Joe Reinch. I'm in my fourth year with the Pac-West Conference. I'm Assistant Commissioner. I have a background in sports communications. I have had stops at California Baptist University, Azusa Pacific, and University of Texas at Tyler. Why mentorship matters to me? It's had a huge impact on my career, and over the time I've spent in college athletics, networking really does matter. Not just networking from a transactional standpoint, but from connecting with people who really understand what you're going through. Just know that you're not alone. I think communications can be a very lonely business at times. A lot of long hours doing the work that needs to be done. And so knowing that other people are aware of what's going on and can help you through that, and someone that you can rely on for advice and encouragement along the way is just such a huge part of this industry.
Absolutely. And finally, Jennifer, welcome.
Thanks, Josh, and welcome to everyone. My name is Jennifer Williams. I'm the Chief Development Officer for USA Basketball. But prior to that, I've worked in higher ed, had stops at DePaul University, North Carolina A&T, as well as Alabama State, where I served as the athletic director. And when we talk about mentorship, I'm very big about paying it forward and helping that next generation of leaders. And so, as my peers said, networking is super important, but relationships and that human connection truly matters. And I believe anytime we can engage with that next generation of leaders and help them navigate their career journeys is super important. And so I know we're going to dive more into that, but that is why mentorship matters to me.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's get into it. I think this first section will really focus on some of the foundational aspects of what mentorship looks like and how we kind of encounter that in our careers. So I'll start with a question for the group. What does a dynamic mentorship look like to you? And Jennifer, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Dynamic relationship between a mentor and a mentee for me is creating an atmosphere where the mentee feels safe. It's a safe space. They feel confident and comfortable being able to share and open up to that mentor. But it also means that the mentee is also prepared. My coach used to always say the 6 Ps. I'm a former basketball player. So 6 Ps, proper prior planning prevents poor performance. And I believe that as a mentee, you have to be prepared to engage with your mentor because most of them are senior level, VP level folks, because that's where you're looking to get guidance and learn from. So you want to be good stewards of their time. And for you to make the most out of that time you have with that person, you want to make sure you're prepared. And so I believe in having a plan, being open and honest dialogue, being coachable. Again, I look for students and young people who are coachable because it is a place where you can provide critique as a mentor to that mentee to help them maybe make mistakes that you made as a leader that you don't want them to go down that same path. So being open, creating an atmosphere where they feel safe, that to me is part of a dynamic mentorship relationship.
I think for me, it's a willingness to learn on both sides. Jennifer touched on it really well, that as a mentee, coming prepared, being ready to learn, not just willing to learn, but ready to learn is big. But I think on the mentor side as well, being willing to learn from your mentees, to not always assume that you're right about everything and that you're passing along the information. I think a truly dynamic relationship in this way would be one where you both build on each other and help each other learn and help each other get better.
Yeah, to me, I would say a word that I like to use is adaptability, because every single mentorship and every single pairing is different. And it might change as time goes on. So being able to adapt and change really makes this mentorship and makes the ability to be a good mentee or be a good mentor is really important, as well as just being inquisitive, like asking the right questions, asking questions of your mentee, asking questions of your mentor, being able to grow together. To me, those are some really important factors of how you can create that dynamic mentorship.
Yeah, Kristen made a really good point, I think, with that adaptability piece. I think that's really important. It's something I know I'm going to discuss a little bit further as we get a little bit deeper in here. But to me, dynamic mentorship is two individuals who are actively and willingly sharing ideas and opinions, whether it be in the form of constructive criticism or taking that criticism constructively for that matter, or just feedback on the handling of a situation. I think both sides should be getting information and experience that they can draw from, right? One of the great things about mentorship is it's not a one-way street, right? The mentor should be getting almost as much out of it as the mentee is. So I think that's what dynamic mentorship really, really should look like. Kind of communicating, setting clear goals, and a focus on maintaining growth both individually and as a tandem can really yield strong results and the best outcome for all involved.
Absolutely. Strong answers across the board. And it kind of leads me into a great second question here, one that I think was submitted prior to. What are some skill sets that you learned or acquired to become a stronger mentor? And how about skills to be the best mentee? I know, Kristen, obviously you mentioned adaptability. Bryce, you just kind of mentioned, the clear communication. So we already brought up a couple, but I'll let everyone kind of chime in on some other ones that they've picked up on.
I think that as a mentor, the biggest thing is being a great listener, actually. If you listen close enough as a mentor, your mentee will tell you what they're trying to get out of a relationship, what they really need help from, even if they're not directly always saying it. To kind of use the college analogy, right? A lot of us work in colleges and campuses across campus. It's not a lecture hall. It's not all one-way talking, where it's more of a lab type of experience where the student and the teacher, or the mentee and the mentor, are both active participants together. And that does mean that sometimes the experiments won't yield the same results, as kind of Kristen alluded to, with every mentorship pairing being a little bit different. Mentoring, it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. Something I'll go in further detail about momentarily. So every mentee is going to want different things, and out of a relationship, while every mentor is going to approach it differently, it's a good thing because different perspectives are really important and really the reason why we seek mentors and mentees in the first place, in my opinion. So on the other side, as a mentee, I think it's being able to identify and communicate your goals or potentially the conflict that you're trying to resolve. Your mentor can't provide guidance if they do not know what you are seeking to improve. So on the fly in a conversation, sometimes it's difficult to identify exactly what you want to discuss. So one thing that we have done as a mentorship committee, as a little plug here, we've put together some conversation prompts that are available on the CSC mentorship page. Now, they're not going to be an all-encompassing list, and we hope that they're just the conversation starters, but there's a list available on CSC's mentorships page. So you may use a specific question, you may not, depending on what you're seeking guidance on, but they're there to get the discussion started and yield a great relationship.
Yeah, to me, I think a skill set that's really important on both sides. Like I know I mentioned adaptability a little bit ago, but open-mindedness. When you go into a conversation, like it can go any which way. As a mentor, there's times where I thought we were going to talk about one thing and it went a complete 180. And so I had to be open-minded, be willing to adapt and work on the fly to make sure I was giving the most to my mentee in that moment. And so for me, being able to not only be open-minded in how you're handling the conversation as a mentor, but be open-minded in the feedback you receive as a mentee of, okay, are these things I'm willing to try? Or, oh, that's something I never thought I would even think about in this realm. But you know what? They're recommending this to me. Maybe I should give it a shot. Having those skill sets, coachable is another one that falls into, we're just using different words to kind of get the same point across of, if you're willing to adapt, be open-minded and coachable and all these different terms, it's going to make it way better for yourself and you're going to grow so much more along the way.
Yeah, Bryce and Kristen have nailed it. Taken a lot of the things that I would have said, the same thing. Listening, the key one. For me, listening and being open-minded are huge. I guess specifically a skill set that either has developed in having these relationships in the past is finding ways to celebrate somebody's strengths. And again, this is almost everything I say is going to go both ways for both mentee, mentor, but finding a way to celebrate strengths, because I think that gives you a really good starting point to have some credibility to identify and grow in some areas that are either weakness or opportunities for growth. But really starting from that position of strength and give people some wins early on really lets you get a little bit deeper into where the improvement and where the kind of that open-mindedness will take place to develop new perspectives.
And I'm just going to add one because I think Joe, Bryce, and Kristen nailed it. I will say that check in on your mentor, not just when you need something, and vice versa. I think that sometimes it's too structured. And I love when I get a text from someone who's gone through one of our mentorship programs here at USA Basketball, just saying, how are you doing? How's everything going, Miss Jennifer? Oh, here's a $15 gift card from Starbucks. Send your mentor a gift card. I send gift cards to my mentees too, but it's nice to be checked in on, not when you need something, and that's both ways, because you never know when someone's having a hard day. And so hearing from a mentor, hearing from a mentee, that lightens the load. And I think curiosity, which we've all kind of said in different ways, I think being curious, I think I see a lot of times you have a mentee who they're just focused on one aspect of sport. And I think that curiosity is what is going to keep you engaged in that longevity in sport. And both ways, as a mentor, be curious about what your mentee is involved in and what they're doing, because we can all learn from each other. I still have mentees teaching me about some tech and AI and chat GPT prompts. So I believe in lifelong learning. I empower and encourage my mentees to always be lifelong learners. But also, again, just checking in on people, not necessarily when it's a structured time, but just because you care, you want to reach out. That's part of that relationship.
Jennifer, you kind of already touched on it there, and then someone else already mentioned not making it transactional. But how do you ensure that mentorship feels reciprocal and not transactional?
Yeah, I don't believe in forced engagement. I like for it to be a holistic relationship. Even when I'm looking at mentors or champions for me, I think it should come organically. And so I'm really big in alignment. I believe in mentees being persistent because we're really busy. And just because you may reach out one time on LinkedIn or through an email doesn't mean I don't care or that it's just we get a lot of emails. You all know, being in the comm space, it's a lot. And so stay persistent. But I think, again, checking in when it's not scripted. We try to make our mentorship programs really feel like family. Even though you've gone through our program, you're still part of the USAB family. We don't just mentor you for a year and then push you out. You're locked in with us. And so that starts with the leadership. That starts with the people you empower to be mentors. It has to be bigger than just what's on paper. Genuinely, the people I bring in to mentor under our programs here, they are committed to developing these students, not just for the time on paper, but through life. And we want those organic relationships to come through. We want them to be able to reach back and get recommendations from us, but also the mentee has to do their role too. I have a sign. I don't know if I have a lot of signs. Do good work. You have to do good work as a mentee because we as mentors aren't just going to co-sign. We're going to support you, but we want to make sure you're doing your part too. And I think sometimes in this generation that I want to say the young people because I'm seasoned now. So I'm going to say the younger folks, they sometimes feel like, hey, you can graduate and then walk into a mid-level job. It doesn't work like that. You have to do the work. And I see my peers, y'all smiling because we see it so much with this, this false sense of, I don't want to say entitlement, but you have to put in the work. And that's as mentors, how we're here to guide you. I don't believe in sugarcoating. Those who I've mentored know that I'm very transparent and real about experiences. And I try to give that light to the students that come, that I work with so that they know this is the real world. I'm going to open your eyes. And so working in sports is hard. As we all know, it's not a 9 to 5. But if you love it, you're going to have success. And that's to me about family, keeping it real. Our parents kept it real with us. So I believe like I'm Auntie Jan to them. I'm going to be able to keep it 1,000 with you all because I don't want you to go in and have shades over blinders and miss out on what is truly meant for you.
Let's take it back to the roots a little bit for some individuals that maybe are at the beginning of their career or people that are in the middle of their career and just are new to being a mentor. Joe, I'll let you answer this question. What are some of the best tips for someone looking to begin that new mentor-mentee relationship?
So I think kind of 3 areas for me. One would be to invest time. Be ready to commit some time to it. Again, I'm going to speak a little bit more on this one from my perspective as someone who's been working in college athletics for a couple of decades now. It is really easy. I know Jennifer touched on it. It's very easy to get caught up in, today is not the best day for me. But ultimately, like if I'm committed to mentoring, I know that there have been people that along the way for me that have helped get me to where I am, who invested time in me, who took time when it wasn't the most convenient. And those were very meaningful experiences for me. And so again, if I'm truly wanting to pass that experience along to somebody else, I need to be willing to invest that time. Inviting new and different perspectives. I also, when I was young in my career, I had the assumption, or I just had this thought that, okay, the way I learned it is the right way to do things. Over time, you realize that there's not one right way, that a lot of us are doing the same things. You might get to the same end goal through a different means. I see a lot of that at the conference office, and I've developed a new appreciation for that. I've worked primarily in championships. I see 4 to 8 different teams that all get to a successful end of the season and are all competing. And you couldn't have different coach personalities. You couldn't have more different team cultures that get there. There isn't a right way to do things. And so just inviting those different perspectives, even inviting opposing perspectives, someone that you think, man, they have it completely wrong, reach out to them and find out what is it what is it that works for you? Just the more well-rounded you get in those different perspectives is really going to help you in the long run. And then the last one is just to include the mentor or the mentee. I know Jennifer also touched on that. Really is a great panel to be on. I'm learning probably more than a lot of people who will be observing this, but ultimately including that person, make them feel special, make them feel heard, make them feel included in your life and what you're doing. Whatever it is you're doing, if you include them, how much more valuable that mentorship relationship is going to be if they kind of walk a little bit with you, alongside you, to understand the things that you're going through.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, to your point, I think this could probably be a 2-hour webinar if we really got into all the weeds and some great stuff that we've already covered. But now we've kind of talked about some of the foundations of what mentorship looks like. Let's really talk about understanding that connection and being relationship driven. I think we've used that word relationship, and I feel like that is the root of relation is obviously much more important than the root of mentor, so to speak. So once you've found that relationship, what's your advice to set it up for success? And I'll open this up to everybody.
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the biggest pieces I've had for success is kind of what Joe and Jennifer have said, is making the time. Like, shout out to Mike Williams at Illinois State. He was the first, my mentor assigned through the mentorship program a few years ago, but he's the first one that made me realize, like, oh yeah, like, let's block that calendar every 2 weeks. We have very different schedules. He does football, I was doing basketball, so our schedules couldn't have been opposite. But we made sure we had that intentional time, and if we really needed to cancel it, we were okay with that. And we would text each other and check in during those time frames. And now, Mike, even though we had graduated from that part of the mentorship committee, we are still friends to this day. We still check in with each other. We still talk in those ways. So for us, it was really about making that time, blocking the calendar. And I still do that. I learned that from Mike, and I do it in my mentorships today. Like, I make sure I block that time off, and I check in with them a couple hours before, like, hey, how's your schedule looking? Like, no obligation to hop on if you don't have the time. So, but by having that and making sure that they feel special in that moment, it makes it work so that they know you care, and it helps really develop a relationship beyond just professional conversation, and they know you care about them outside of just what they do for work.
Yeah, so I think right out of the gate, just establish that line of communication and kind of what your goals are. Exchange your contact info, identify where the mentee wants to be and how the mentor can help you get them there. Something that I really want to, kind of touch on is, I think that mentorship pairings, the best ones, and Jennifer kind of alluded to it a little bit, they kind of come natural, right? We like, as a mentorship committee, we can pair you with a mentor, but at the end of the day, we don't really know how well your personalities are going to mix. I was blessed last year with a tremendous mentor pairing, because we connected so well, because we both had broadcasting backgrounds, and we both loved baseball and loved our specific city sports teams. So we just connected and went from there. So, you'll have those formal kind of mentors, but you also have some like informal mentors. When I was preparing for this, I hopped on Google and I just like looked up the definition of what a mentor is, because we throw that word out there a lot. Like, what exactly is a mentor? And it's experienced and trusted advisor, which still doesn't tell you very much, but leaves a lot of room for interpretation. But that's a great thing about it, right? You kind of have those internal, external mentors. You have those formal, informal mentors. They come in all shapes and sizes. They can be a significant other, be a boss, can be a parent, colleague, fellow professional in your conference, or from a role long ago. Mentorship is everywhere if you're open to it and you're willing to look for it a little bit. Like, just the other day, I fielded advice from a colleague about how I'm perceived interpersonally within my own conference, and thus how could I improve my interactions, right? Sometimes I just want a second set of eyes on a video. There's all kinds of different things that we can get mentorship on, and it's, sometimes it's not always, kind of asking the same mentor the same, all these things. It's just as valuable to identify who to ask as what to ask, almost, in a way. So that's something I kind of wanted to touch on. So, but setting yourself up for success, I guess, stemming from that, getting a bunch of mentors so you can get different perspectives.
I think everyone, I mean, Bryce and Kristen, I think they pretty much nailed it. I was just going to say, basically, I like to establish expectations up front with my mentee, just so we're aligned as to what we're hoping to accomplish, especially if it doesn't come as an organic pairing. It's more matched through a program. And then communication. I think Kristen and Bryce both touched on it. I just feel like communication is key. I love the blocking of the schedule. I do that. I think that's amazing. But I know that life happens, lifes. And so if things come up, I just say, like, make sure we're in communication. I shouldn't have to come track you down. I expect that level of respect where you're keeping me abreast and I'm going to do the same. So again, establishing boundaries and expectations for me at the forefront, and then being able to have that clear, defined line of communication.
Yeah, and I think the last one is just understanding people, asking questions. That doesn't always have to revolve around work and tasks and things like that. Getting to know people for who they are, and being able to support them. I think one of the things that I really look for on one of my roles is supervising our interns, but is really trying to identify or listen to them and identify when they're having a good day, when they're having a bad day. If they're struggling in something in their life, whether it's studies, whether it's work, any of their other family, anything going on, and I can sense that, me piling on with, okay, well, we need to get this done, this done, this done, this done, really isn't going to be productive for any of us. And so really, I think that the big one is just asking questions, learning how people answer questions, learning their personalities, so that you can help them. Obviously, I've been through times where work is not easy and go through my own struggles. And okay, I see what's happening here. I definitely feel you. I understand you, but at the same time, this is how in the past I've been able to separate that and maybe move to a place where it helps them manage all the challenges that they're going to face throughout their career.
I think one of the common themes that a few of you brought up already is just the authenticity of the relationship there. And I think that, yeah, you can build connections with a lot of people just based on being in the same field or the same location or whatever. But you really dive deep when you are authentic with each other and share that. So Bryce, how do you bring authenticity into your mentoring relationships?
I think getting to know your mentor or your mentee personally, not only what their motivations are and their goals are and their why, right? We talk so much about our why do we do this? But getting to know them on a personal level. I mentioned it. One of the things I connected most with my mentor that was formally paired through CSC last year was our backgrounds as broadcasters and our shared passion for baseball. So I think be yourself, showcase your personality as a mentor or as a mentee, right? Being your authentic self in that way, but also, kind of just getting to know each other beyond the professional side of things. So, one thing that we as a mentorship program have kind of put a point of emphasis on this year when it comes to mentor and mentee relationships. But one thing that we found is sometimes they want like almost a professional friend in a sense, right? So, the piece of that comes from that is getting to know your colleague as more than just a colleague. So I think a mentorship relationship should feel natural and authenticity should follow.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it for sure. Kristen, I liked what you mentioned earlier. Also love the, blocking time aside to really be intentional with those relationships. But how else do you adapt your communication style to really connect meaningfully in that mentoring relationship?
Yeah, so for me, I really focus on that first conversation that you have. So if you know this is going to be a long-term thing, so when I get into the mentorship program and meet with my mentee for the first time, I take the time to figure out their goals, what they want to get out of this, what are those pieces? Because again, mentorship is also fluid. So you take that time, you check in from the start, and then that next conversation, I'll take in some of those bits. I'll always start with, oh, is there anything specific you want to talk about today? And if there is, great. If not, I'm like, well, how about we just, like, I'm a certified yapper. I will say that all the time. So I'm like, do you want to just take today to yap? Like, what do you want to talk about? Like, what about your life? Like, have you always lived in this place? Like, was this always your dream? Like, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? So take it away from the mentorship piece. And that's how I get to know, like, do they like that lingo of girly pop and all the Gen Z lingo of the days? Do they take things straightforward? And that conversation helps me know, okay, they're a straight shooter. All right, we'll shoot everything straight. Okay, they take a little bit of time to have to help them mold. Okay, how can I find a way to help them grow, but maybe it's just a slight nudge. So by taking the time, like everybody said, to listen, to really take in what they're saying to you, that helps make the process go smoother. And then you do those check-ins, like especially through like a program that's set up for you, check-ins every like other month, every few weeks, every couple months, whatever your cadence is. I meet with mine every other week. So it'd be probably about 2-3 months in for me, where I'll be like, hey, are we hitting your goals? What else do you want to learn? Like, what else do you want to grow? Also, this doesn't end at the end of this program. We can keep talking if you want. We don't have to keep talking. It's okay. Like, so making sure that you are transparent with the person that you're in this mentorship with, and letting them know if it's not okay for you and it's not okay for them. Like, it's okay to say this isn't working. And so making sure you're open, honest with each other. And again, that way to adapt is really just to get to know them and figure out, okay, how do they respond in these situations?
I think this is a great lead into our last question on this section, but how do you prepare for that conversation, whether it's the first one, the second one, or however many, to make sure it's intentional, impactful, and then what does just a meaningful follow-up look like to you all?
For me, one thing I always make sure I do is research. Like, make sure you actually know who you're talking to, because you could be talking to the head of an athletic communications department, but if you want to work game ops, what is going and talking to the person who's the head of the communications department going to do for you if you want a long-term relationship with them? So making sure that you do your research, know their background, so you can come in prepared. Because for me, if I have someone email me and it's a conversation that's supposed to be like 20 minutes long and they're not prepared, or they're like, well, what was your path? I'm like, well, you can go to my bio and see my path. Like, what do you want to get out of this conversation? Like, what do you want to learn? What do you want to grow? Like, the ones that I have extended long-term mentorship opportunities to are the ones that come prepared, the ones who know what they want from their goals and know how we can work together to help them achieve that. And to me, that's really important, of making sure you're being impactful, not just for yourself and getting the best for you, but being impactful for your mentor and making sure that you're using their time valuably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay. No, I was just going to piggyback off Kristen. I think it goes back to the 6 Ps, that proper prior planning prevents poor performance. And I just stand by that. We don't want to waste anyone's time. When we're being intentional about mapping off times on our calendars to genuinely connect with a mentee, that's valuable time. And so we want to make the most of that, that conversation. And so I think making sure, again, that your mentor is also prepared. I go and research, look up my mentee. If I've never met with, and I'm not familiar, I might go Instagram, stalk them, go on TikTok, make sure, just so I can better connect. Because again, it goes back. I never coach, but I'm big on coaching people, and you got to know your personnel. And so I can't communicate with every mentee the same way. And so again, I have to understand how to make that connection. And then, trying to make sure you're creating that community so that they do feel safe and that they, can have that meaningful, impactful dialogue. But I do believe that preparation is key, because I want to make sure that we're maximizing the time we have together and that I'm a resource for you. But again, don't ask me my background when you can definitely go Google that. So we know this generation knows how to search. So yes, proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
Yeah, mine's going to build right off of what Kristen and Jennifer said. So I'm going to echo a lot of the similar points. Kind of being prepared with things that you want to discuss. One of the things that we've kind of put as a point of emphasis through mentorship this year is making it more mentee led, right? They're going to get out of it what they put into it. a little bit. So whether it's checking in and kind of at that prompts list that I referred to that's on the CSC mentorship page, you know, or jotting down conversation topics between meetings of situations that you encounter on the fly, just being very intentional about your discussions and kind of what is relevant, what pertains to you at a certain time. So just kind of seizing the opportunity as a mentee, seizing that chance to truly grow from the relationship. And then in future situations come up and change over time. So adapting your discussions to those active items. And from a mentor side, we're just going to be steady as we go, right? Just providing the best advice that we can. I think that's our goal as a mentor whenever you're in a situation.
Yeah, I think as much as I want to continue to say the same things, I completely agree with the other three. I'll take it a slightly different direction. And I think in terms of just things that you can bring to the table to make sure that your conversations are meaningful, impactful, is going to be reliability. You be where you're going to be, where you say you're going to be, when you say you're going to be there. Have that preparation ahead of time. So you want to be reliable. You want to be respectful as well. Respect those different perspectives. I know I've said it before, but definitely be respectful of where people are coming from and the experiences that they bring to the table, and be willing to learn from them. And then I think the last piece of it is if you really want a relationship that's going to have be intentional, have impact. I always try to frame things that if this person is writing my recommendation letter, how are they going to recommend me? What are they going to say about me? And what are those characteristics that I want to demonstrate to them, that maybe if I don't have that characteristic and I want to learn how to do it, those are the questions that I'm asking. Just be really focused on what that recommendation is going to look like. And like I said, I think that goes both ways for both mentor and mentee.
Absolutely. As we kind of wrap up here, heading into our final few questions, we'll get into some of the really good case studies that you guys have seen in your mentor relationships. But let's start with one for the group here. How do you make time for mentorship? Because we know we're all so busy in college athletics. So what does that look like? Even if, you are too busy for that really intentional sit down, what does it look like if you're just trying to check in really briefly with your mentor or mentee?
I'll hop in. I will, text messaging, social media, just letting them know I'm thinking of them. We are busy, and it's even intensified during certain seasons within college athletics and international pro space. And so just letting them know you're watching, you care. I think those are all nice touch points if you cannot make time for a formal meeting that's scheduled out. I try to, again, share their wins on social media, on my LinkedIn, to my platform, to give them more eyeballs to help. So showing them that you care, using social and technology to also tap in with them has been key for me during my busy time.
I literally set reminders in my phone to connect with certain people like every 3 months. Like, I'm not joking. Like I'm a Hey Siri on my app for reminders, and I will say, remind me to connect with this person this day, this time. And so I'll get that, and then I can send the email, or I can schedule the email if I'm doing it at midnight, which sometimes is the case, as with all of us SIDs know all too well. So to me, it really is like, use the technology we have, because you can schedule send. You can even just put on their Instagram story if they posted they're at a game, like, look at you grinding, proud of you, like little things just to hype them up along the way. Like I obviously mentioned earlier, blocking off my calendar for intentional conversation, but also using the technology to make sure you're checking in with those people and making them feel important along the way.
And I think I would add to that something that I've learned to do a lot of times again, early in my career, early in my life. It's you have a positive thought about someone, something you see reminds you of them, and you want to pass something along, and you just let the moment pass. It's easy to say, much harder to do, but don't let that moment pass. You're thinking something reminds you of something positive that someone did or does, a characteristic. Just shoot them that quick note that says, "Hey, I appreciate this about you." There doesn't have to be a reason. There doesn't have to be anything other than just I mean, think about how nice it is to hear just out of the blue, someone sends you a compliment for whatever reason it is. They're thinking of you. There's nothing I think more valuable than knowing that people are thinking of you when you're least expecting it.
Yeah, I think, if we want to make time, we'll make time, right? Just kind of being intentional about that piece of it. Yeah, we're busy, right? But so is everybody else. So you're going to make time for the things that are really important to you and stuff like that. So I think, on formal meetings and stuff like that, kind of like Kristen's mentioned a couple of times, just setting that scheduled time of, hey, every Wednesday we're going to hop on, or every Wednesday, first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. we're going to hop on Zoom. And if you had to move it, you had to move it. But at least it has that structure in place, that baseline in place where, you've got that target date. Or, just kind of just shooting texts about, how things are going. But when you get to know stuff about them personally, sending them texts about some of that stuff, hey, great streak by the Guardians right now. The Mariners are making a great run, like, to use my baseball example, right? Something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be crazy, or it can be something kind of a little bit more professionally aligned. Like, how's crossover season going for you? Are you hanging in there? Is there anything else? Is there anything you need? So I think it's just, you'll find time if you want to, right? We make time for the things that are important for us. And so just kind of finding ways.
Absolutely. Joe, what's one thing that you've learned from a mentee or mentor that really surprised you?
Yeah, I don't know if it should surprise me or not, but it tells you a little bit about a little more transparency than I might like about myself. But I think the thing that really stuck out to me as I thought about this is that we have more in common than the people we clash with the most. Everyone in college athletics, there's a common thread that runs through all of us, and there's usually a selflessness to it. There's a team is greater than self approach. Everybody involved in athletics appreciates a lot of those elements about being a part of it and is willing to do their part. Now, we each have different roles, and sometimes those roles cross over and they don't agree with each other. And you may have there's personality conflicts that wedge their way into all of that. And I think that for me, being able to learn how to take a step back and understand that conflict is normal, but also understanding productive ways to deal with it, and to also understand, like, big picture. Yes, I think of a couple of examples throughout my career where once I reached out and tried to connect with the person and have a one-on-one discussion, you end up learning that 90% of the things that they're saying, I'm like, well, I agree with that. I agree with that. That's my goal too. That's my goal too. And then there's this little sliver of things that you don't necessarily agree on, either the way that you do it or on a certain perspective about it. Once you kind of lock in on the common goals, I think that really helps you get through those conflicts and really understand how to partner with people better.
I'll go to Kristen with this one. Can you share a moment when a mentorship really sparked some personal or professional growth for you?
That is truly what mentorship is, in my opinion. When I was thinking about what mentorship is, when we were planning this call, that's what kind of went back to me. And it's both personal and professional. Like, I would say my mom is a mentor of mine. Like, when it comes to leading a team, like, she leads a team of like 60 at her job. I don't have that many. But when I'm having struggles of like, oh my gosh, like, when I stepped into this role, I was leading a lot more people than I have in the past. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm dealing with this situation. I was like, oh my gosh, my personalized approach doesn't work with this many. Like, what do I do? And she's been a mentor for me there. Bill Burns from Loyola Chicago, he's no longer in the industry, but yeah, I still to this day will text him if I have men's basketball game notes, like, hey, do you think this is a good note to throw in? Hey, what do you think about this? There's still these people that are so impactful in my life, and not even just professionally with, like, Bill, for example. Every time I go to Chicago, I go and see him, which is great about USC being in the Big Ten, one of the few, but still. Anyway, for me, mentorship goes so far, and every single stop I've had along the way, I still have a person in my corner that I rely on, that I reach back out to. Even people, like, you might think that me being at a Power 4 now, I wouldn't be utilizing the skills I used at my NAIA or D3 stops, but I do. And I still reach out to some of those friends like, hey, how would you handle this? Like, what do you think about this? Like, the skills are all the same, just different utilizations of those skills. And so the mentors I've had, the mentees that I have helped me grow too, and helped me realize, like, oh yeah, I know about this. Yes. Like, sometimes even just to give you that confidence of, yes, you can navigate these relationships, you can navigate these conversations, all along the way.
Jennifer, what's a misconception about mentorship that maybe you've encountered, and then how can we reframe that misconception?
That's a good one, Josh. I would say that a misconception is that your mentor is going to get you a job. I would say that your mentor will assist you with giving you the confidence and like reshaping your thought process to help you get a job, but not necessarily, you can't expect your mentor to just get you a job, or by going through a mentorship program, you're going to get a job. You still have to do the work. And that's why I tell you still have to make meaningful connections. And I think sometimes in this younger generation, they get it twisted at times. You still have to put in the grind to get to where you want to be. And I think that can be, sometimes I have to reshape people's thoughts when they come into a program. And I always tell them that when you come into our USA Basketball Torch Mentorship Program, it's not, I don't guarantee you a job. I guarantee you a network. I guarantee you a network of people who will help you if you do what you need to do to get a job. You're going to be attached with a brand that is recognized globally, but you still have to do the work. And I think that's where I have to rewire sometimes some of our mentees that come and the students in the program. But once they hear it, and they see it, and they see the success stories that come out of our program, they're locked in. So that's one of the things I try to shape. Like, you still have to do the work.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it with that. And I think it goes back to what we said about not making it transactional, right? Because if they can't, they might be able to get you a job, but if they can't, what can you pick up from them that can equip you? And then even just building that relationship, because if they need a job or they know someone in their network that needs a job, you have to make yourself be top of mind to them.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I think, again, holistically, the mentorship doesn't stop when the program stops. You want to stay connected with your mentor, the check-ins, the, hey, how are you doing? Can we hop on a 15-minute catch-up call so I can update you as to where I am now? Because as you all get people reaching out all the time about jobs. I get so many people ask me, do you have someone who can work in this field or in this field? And I will share names, but I have to trust you, because I don't give recommendations easily. So I have to trust that you're going to do right by my recommendation. So again, we can put you in the right space to get a job and set you up for success, but that is not all mentorship is about.
Absolutely. Bryce, to finish us out, what's a piece of advice that you've picked up in a mentorship role, or even if you haven't picked it up from a mentor, just something you have to share to kind of round out our conversation?
Maybe it's not like pure advice, but I feel like, especially in our industry as sports communicators, there's so many people who are willing to help and who want to see you succeed. Right? I mean, they're everywhere. We're all kind of pulling on the same rope. We're all fighting the same battles. Understaffed, underpaid, overworked, right? We're all fighting the same battles. So there are so many people that I feel want to see you succeed and are willing to put forth the time and effort to help get you where you want to be if you just ask. So I kind of alluded to my concept of formal and informal mentors. Well, oftentimes you can get more out of an informal mentor relationship than a formal one. And so identifying those people effectively and subsequently, connecting with them well, it goes such a long way.
Absolutely. Well, like I said at the beginning, an incredible group of people that we got to talk to today. Big thank you to Bryce, Kristen, Joe, Jennifer, for sharing your insight with college sports communicators. I think this was an awesome conversation, just overall holistic, right? We threw that word out a few times about what mentorship looks like, how to help really set clear guidelines from the beginning of what are you looking for? How can I help you? And then, just finding great ways to be there for those people after you build those relationships. And so again, we encourage you all to visit collegesportscommunicators.com for updates on future webinars and membership news. Thank you all so much again for being with us today.